Welcome to our webinar. I'll make a short introduction about Viberate before I go straight into our analytics platform. So we can wait for a couple more people to join in. So my name is Vasya. I'm one of the co-founders of Viberate, and this in the background is our office. We're a music tech company from Ljubljana, Slovenia. And we've been around for the past 4 years, building our database, which today is probably one of the cleanest database of musicians, music venues, events, and festivals in the world. Right now we have roughly 500,000 musicians, 150,000 venues, around 500,000 events, usually not in the time of the pandemic, and around 5,000 festivals. So our profiles are publicly accessible, so anyone can see them. They're crowdsourced and curated, so anyone can add new musicians or new venues into the database, and then our database curation team is gonna check them, remove any mistakes or any double entries. That means that when I say we have one of the cleanest data sets, that means that we have one strict rule, meaning one profile equals one entity, so one artist or one venue or one event, and this enables us to be very accurate in anything we do with our data, and this is exactly what I'm going to show you now. So we've just launched our analytics platform. It was launched last week in private beta. So if anyone doesn't have access, just let us know and we can upgrade your Viberate account for free into premium. So I'll just go straight into sharing mode. So this is our chart. It goes from 1 to 100,000 profiles. So based on Viberate popularity metrics, Ariana Grande is world's most popular musician on all monitor channels. This is the default ranking. So Viberate popularity is basically our synthetic KPI that is derived from all the channels and all the metrics that we monitor. You can toggle the timeline, so 30 days, 90 days, and 12 months, and all time. So if you wanna change, if you wanna change the period, you can do it here. But if you wanna check any other ranking, so who has the most YouTube subscribers, and then the database is gonna rank the artist according to this metric. So it's Billie Eilish, followed by BTS, Marshmallow, and so on. You can see this, it's marked here. And then you can go even, you can filter out the results. So let's try United States. So those are only artists from the United States. And then let's choose the hip hop genre. So this is the main genre. And then we can also go deeper to subgenres. So let's contemporary hip hop, and it's going to list artists according to this subgenre. And then you can just scroll down. This is a really good tool for discovering new artists, because you can go really specific. So if you want to know who's the most popular classic rock band from Sweden, you can just use the filters and you can find out. But if you're looking for someone in particular, so if you know who you're looking for, you can just type their name here. So let's check Billie Eilish, since she was the first on the YouTube chart. It's an indexed search, so it searches as you type. You click here, and then she's gonna get highlighted on the chart. So you can check where she ranks on the chart and who are the artists around her. Okay, so this is her. If you click on her name, it will take you to her profile. So this is
I'll take her profile as a sample. I'll go and explain all the features. And after that, I have a couple of really interesting examples. So I can lead you through the examples and let you know how to use the metrics, what are the specifics, what are the differences between emerging artists versus established artists, how to spot out a breakout artist, because this is something that you can do by using those stats. So here are some basic stats. She ranks overall on her chart that we just seen before. Number 4 in the United States, number 6 in her primary top genre, and number 7 in her subgenre, mainstream pop. And then moving down, those are the three pillars of our metrics. So we monitor social media performance, music channel performance. Those are pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go into detail. So social sites and streaming sites. And then we have network respect, which is a pretty cool metric because here we're able to look into the followers of each musician that we have in our database, and we can single out those followers that are also musicians and in our database, and we know their profiles, so we know which artists are following this particular artist, and this tells you a lot about the power and the respect this artist has gained in the industry. So, for example, if you're a relatively unknown artist like a garage rock band and you're just trying to hustle away and you play gigs and you release music on YouTube and you send it to Spotify and you just do whatever you can to make it, and then all of a sudden you get followed by Metallica. So a huge rock band follows you, they spotted you, and we can spot this even if you have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. We know who followed you uh, among your peers in music. So I'll get back to that when we go into details. So the career performance, this is a 12-month chart highlighting some milestones of the artist. So this is popularity all over all channels that we monitor. So those are all tucked into one metric. And this again tells you a lot about what artist has done in the past year and which are the milestones that cause this artist to explode in terms of popularity. In terms of, and if we check Billie Eilish, you can click on this icons and it will show which piece of content cause any movement. So this one is really interesting because this is when she got her Grammy for Best New Artist, and her popularity exploded basically overnight. So this is a really cool metric for artists, for their managers, for the social media managers, because you can really track, you can monitor how certain events or pieces of content are taken by your audience. The fan base distribution is this is split into two parts. So here we have the total number of fans, which is a simple metric, versus the fan base growth. So this is the growth in the past 7 days, so the past week. So this tells you a lot about the size of the artist. So established artists have huge numbers, obviously, but this here tells you a lot about the hotness of this artist. So if this artist is getting a lot of attention from the fans, and here you have the distribution. So Billie Eilish has the majority of her fans are on Instagram, followed by YouTube and Spotify. And then you can check those same metrics in our timeline. So how did those fans move? So when did she get the majority of followers? And we can you can do this for all the monitor channels. You can do this in a monthly period, 3 months or 12 months. And then this is actually my favorite metric because it's on the first side it can look complex, but it's really not. So this the red area shows the fan base monthly growth, and the blue area shows the monthly engagement in the same time period. So if you slide here, it will move along. And this is really interesting with the artists who are, we all know that some artists are buying their fans, right? They're buying fake fans to make them look bigger than they really are. And in that case, they would have a huge red field here and basically this would be non-existent because fake fans don't engage with the content. So here you want to be looking for artists who have a huge blue field, because that means they have a really lively audience. As a promoter or as a label, you want to work with artists that have audience that is highly engaged with the content that they put online. And this thing is similar, but here we're comparing the engagement versus the fan base size, so the total size, not just the growth. And when this blue line is crossing the red line, this means that in this time period, Billie Eilish's audience was extremely engaged with the content that she was putting online. And here we have engagement metrics in detail. Um, Maybe we could focus on this one. So you see a spike here. So something happened here. So she put something really interesting on YouTube. And if we go check on her YouTube, it was her hit single "Everything I Wanted," which was published on YouTube on January 23rd. And this fits perfectly into this gap. So it needed some time to gain some momentum, and then it just went viral. And you can see the spike really clearly here. So again, a really interesting tool for any social media managers, artists who want to analyze their own career, etc. The audience map is this is the closest that we currently get to geotag consumption metrics, which means that we can look into YouTube and Spotify charts, and we can assess the monthly listeners to this particular artist based on the country. So you can click on the map and you get results here, or you can just scroll down and check for countries. This is a really cool tool if you're a promoter, because promoters usually want to book artists who are really popular in their area. And consumption metrics from streaming sites are really good indicator of how popular the artist really is in the country. So for Billie Eilish, we see that as she's actually, of course, she's the biggest in the USA, followed by Brazil, Mexico, Britain, Turkey. This maybe comes in as a surprise, but yeah, it's a really good orientation tool for promoters. And speaking of promoters, we can go deeper into events. So this is the event profile of Billie Eilish. Obviously, she's a huge artist, so she usually plays in huge venues. This is the um, capacity range. So 44% she plays just huge venues, halls, stadiums, clubs not so much. So only 6%, but those are usually, I would say, huge clubs. Um, and how do we get to this data? So we have, I already mentioned, we have 150,000 music venues in our database, and we have their capacity ranges for each venue. So, and then what we do is we have direct feeds to we have direct event feeds with Ticketmaster, Eventim, Eventbrite, Skittle. All those major ticket providers are feeding us their event data, and then our analytics engine can single out names from the lineup and the venue name, and then it matches it with our database, and then we see where the artist is playing, what's the profile of the venue, and so on. And this is pretty self-explanatory. So those are the number of events, and last year compared to this year. Obviously, this year because of the pandemic, kind of sucks. But in case of Billie Eilish, it's actually quite impressive. So a lot of her events are not canceled. So, but I think they will be. Then you can go uh, down to a single event. So those are top live performances: Coachella, Summerfest, Leeds Festival, all those huge festivals. Because again, she mostly plays huge venues. And if you click here, it's going to take you to Coachella's Viberate public profile, when you can then check for other artists and check the whole profile. Artist connections is something that I mentioned before on the top of the site. So here, so network respect. So this is actually this metric in detail. So out of all her followers, we spotted over 10,000 musicians among her followers. Most of them are on Instagram, followed by Twitter and SoundCloud. Of course, because she's a US artist, usually um, her fans come from the US, followed by Britain and Australia. And as she is a pop artist, most of her musician followers also have pop as a primary genre, followed by electronic and hip hop. And then it gets even better. So you can identify who they are. So we see that Ariana Grande is following her on Instagram and Billy's following her back. So this is because if the arrow, if we have two arrows, that means that they each following each other. But in terms of Katy Perry, so Katy Perry is following Billie Eilish on Instagram, but she doesn't get a love back. And those are you can just scroll down and go through all of those artists, and they are ranked by their Viberate popularity. And then we can go deeper into music. So this is maybe something that is interesting for labels. So how many appearances on different charts she got for her tracks. This is aggregated metrics, and we can go to a certain track level. So we know the current rank, the peak rank, peak date, and time on chart, and you can just go ahead and just keep scrolling and see how she performs on those channels. And then we also go deeper into YouTube and Shazam. So the number of Shazams and the number of YouTube videos combined, and then you can check the dynamics. So how many views in 7 days, 30 days, all time. This is again really interesting thing because it's dynamic. So it tells you a lot how hot the artist is currently in the past 7 days. Finally, we come to the this is the bottom of the content drill down. So Twitter content performance, some aggregated metrics, pretty self-explanatory, and then this again one of my favorites. So this shows you this compares the engagement of the analyzed artist with the industry standard, but we don't take the entire database. We only compare them in their own groups. So huge artists like Billie Eilish, they fall into the group that has over 1 million followers, and we take this average to see how if their engagement is above average or under average. So in her case, this is green, which means that she's highly above average. If she would be average, it would be yellow, and if she would be under average, it would be red. By the way, if when you're going to browse through the tool, if you find trouble understanding any of the sections, you can click here, and there's going to be a short video tutorial on how to use this section. And then we can go looking. We look into the top tweets in the last 90 days, which is again a great tool if you're an artist, you want to analyze how your best performed content did in the last 90 days, and you can learn a lot. So what kind of content your fans actually like. And then we have the exact same thing for Instagram. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. So it's pretty much the same thing, and that's the bottom of the profile. So now I'll go and I'll show you a couple of quick examples of some interesting facts. So we have Saint John. This is the artist that had a track out a couple years ago, but he really exploded in terms of popularity when a remix of this track came out, and I'll show you how this shows on his popularity chart. So this is a typical pattern for non-established artists, but for the artist who's gaining momentum. Usually they have their music channel performance in green because they usually break out with a head track, and people start listening to it on streaming services, and then the social media following actually lags. So fans are listening to the tracks, they say, hey, I really like this artist, let me find him and her on Facebook, on Twitter, and I'll follow her because I like him. So this usually lags, and network respect is comes last. So first they gain social media attention from the fans, and then their industry peers will follow up. And here again, see almost a hockey stick chart. So when when this track came out, Rose's Email Back remix, then his career skyrocketed. And this is even more obvious here. So this is the fan base versus the engagement chart. So you can see that he actually exploded somewhere between February and March. And also the audience started engaging like crazy. It didn't grow as much as it was a lively audience. Um, Another interesting, this was actually quite surprising. So Adele, a super established artist, a superstar, who decided to go on a break a couple of years ago. So obviously her music channel performance just plummeted. So it's heavily in the red. She hasn't been releasing anything during those years. But I mean, being Adele, she's still very popular on social media, and she enjoys a lot of respect among her colleagues in the industry. But then I noticed something interesting. So a spike, a huge spike in her popularity, maybe even more visible here. So you can see all this huge spike, and here even more obvious. So what did she do? Because her popularity exploded all of a sudden, and she hasn't released anything. So you go here, you can click here. So she posted a picture of herself when she lost a lot of weight, and it was news. So it was all over the media, it was all over her channels, and that really influenced also her online popularity. Coldplay is an example of an established act that's been around forever. They're producing hit tracks, cold tracks, so people are listening to not only their new stuff, just also to their old stuff, while they jogging or driving to work. So this is a typical. It's kind of a boring profile because everything is in the green, everything is pretty linear. There are no spikes. They did release an album last year, so they have huge following in Spotify, also on Twitter, um, and YouTube, Deezer, so all those streaming services. They're a highly popular band. So actually nothing really special here, but it doesn't mean that they're a bad act. I mean, it's just they have a steady career, and that's a good thing. So a lot of engagement, constant uh, constant fan base growth. Everything is looks great with Coldplay. Curtis Roach is this is a great example of when a piece of content that an artist puts online goes viral. So you won't see anything above or under average here, but a huge hockey stick chart, and this was caused because this was because of his video on TikTok. It just went viral. So it went viral on a channel that we actually don't yet monitor because we're still adding TikTok. We're still developing this metrics around TikTok, but this resonated in all other channels that he uses. And in the end, so here in the peak, it actually landed him the a collaboration with Tyga. And finally, Lil Nas. This is maybe the opposite of what we just saw. So he won a Grammy for his collaboration with Billy Ray Cyrus for best video, but after that he kind of slept. So through the year, and you can see obviously here. So he has a falling trend line, um, and also if we scroll down, the same thing is highly visible here. So this is the whole tour. And yeah, I'll now stop sharing the screen and I'll attend to the questions. Okay, let me see. There are a couple of questions. So, do you offer this data downloadable as CSV? No, we do not offer this data downloadables. So you can only what you can do is you can log in to Viberate. You can check whatever you saw here, but you cannot download anything. But we think that I mean the a lot of metrics are most of the measures are in raw data, except for a really deep drill down. So the things that you saw on the bottom are actually we're counting likes for each tweet and each Instagram post. But a lot of metrics are actually synthetic, so they are calculated by our algorithms. How can I use the charts to find new emerging artists? I organize events in Sweden and mostly look for artists in my region. So the easiest way would be to go to the chart and just filter out. So you select Sweden, and select whatever genre you're interested in, and then you're gonna get a list of most popular artists from Sweden. So this is if you want to book domestic artists. But if you want to book artists who are popular in Sweden but not necessarily Swedish, you can use the metric that I showed. So you can go to and see what people from Sweden are listening to on YouTube and Spotify. Does your API track playlists? Not yet. We only track charts for now. But we are looking into playlists and some other consumption options. So this is something that's on the way, and we are constantly looking for additional sources. As soon as anything pops up that is used widely, so we only analyze sources that are used by the majority of our database. Then we see what we can do with it, and we're going to introduce additional channels. I missed the beginning, but do you have access to Facebook or Twitch analytics? No. So Facebook, we did have Facebook, but as you know, Facebook had a thing with Cambridge Analytica. It was a huge fiasco for them, and after that data abuse, they completely closed down their API for the majority of data that they were feeding into the API. They are slowly opening back up, so we're closely following this, and as soon as we get anything useful, we are going to include Facebook in detail. But honestly, back then when we still had Facebook, when they were still streaming data into the API, um, we noticed that musicians are actually doing a switch. So they were ditching their Facebook presence, and they were focusing more on Instagram. It was a huge movement. Hi, I'm just wondering why Facebook is not tracked in the data. Again, same answer. I've seen several artists with zero engagement for months in the fan base growth versus engagement chart. Then over the pandemic, engagement builds. Is this normal? So yeah, I would say this is normal. Um, I mean, if you can compare it with Netflix stock. So its price exploded during the pandemic because people were stuck at home and there was nothing to do than to watch movies, or in this case, listen to music. So people were looking to discover new artists, to discover new music, and of course, a lot of things happened on social media, on artist profiles. So they did get fans, especially if they were instead of touring, they went to the studio and they were producing new tracks. So this usually shows here. Where do you get your artist nationality data? Is this something you tag manually, or is there a provider? Yes, we do tag this manually. It is a lot of work, and this is why we crowdsource and curate our database. So when I told you that it is crowdsourced with a huge community. So we have roughly 20,000 contributors contributing new stuff on Viberate. So anyone could add new stuff. So if you're an artist and if you don't have the profile, you can add yourself, or maybe even your fans already added you, and then you can go to Viberate and you can claim your profile through a really straightforward procedure. How accurate is the nationality data? I would say pretty accurate. We curate everything that comes into our database because people are gonna enter all kinds of weird stuff. So you have to curate each and every piece of content that they upload. Yeah, a notification just popped up. So there's a SurveyMonkey link in the chat. So I really appreciate if you could take a minute, just give us some feedback. It's regarding the pricing, because the beta is free. So if anyone doesn't have beta access yet, drop us a line, register on Viberate, and we're gonna upgrade your account for free until September. In September, we're gonna start charging a monthly subscription, and this service actually about we're kind of thinking about a couple of different price ranges, so we'll appreciate any feedback. Any personal suggestion for artists who have a high network respect but poor music, social channel performance, and still struggles to get booked internationally? Oh, that's a lot of questions tucked into one question. So, high network respect but poor music. This is it's a pretty edge case, I would say. I personally haven't stumbled upon such a case. That would mean that this is someone who's a really established artist but hasn't released anything new in years. That would usually happen, and they don't do anything on social media channels. So I don't know. Maybe we should try the Rolling Stones. That would be my first guess. Okay, last one. Where can I see trend lines of growth over time for each of the metrics on the artist pages, Spotify followers, Shazam, etc.? So you can check trend lines in the fan base and engagement analysis setting. This is this is the data that we can get. So we cannot get followers subscribers for each and every channel we monitor, but for those that we can get, we do publish this information. So those are the small charts that I was showing the spikes on them. Okay, more questions. Will artists be able to connect with each other on Viberate? Yes, this is something that is down the line. So at first, we wanted to build a service that would offer something useful to all stakeholders of the music market. So artists on one side and promoters and labels on the other side. And as we get users to use our data, as we build our community, we are going to introduce additional networking features. So artists will be able to pitch labels, or promoters will be able to book artists. They will be able to communicate with each other, to connect with each other, much like you do on LinkedIn. And so the whole idea is to create a network and a platform that will allow any music stakeholders to interact, to discover each other, to measure how popular they are, to check for upcoming artists, etc. So this was the last question, I think. Yeah. So if any of the questions still pop up, don't be afraid to drop us a line. You can find our contacts on Viberate.com. You can search for our contact forms, or just simply email us to info@viberate.com with the extra E, Viberate. The extra E was because the domain was cheaper, and it kind of comes from rating the vibe, by the way. And we also have a WhatsApp, so there's a number in the chat, and you can also text us anytime you want. Okay, so since there are no more questions, thank you everyone for joining in, and yeah, let's keep in touch, and we're gonna do more of those webinars, so we'll let you know as they happen. Take care. Bye bye.